Hello, good morning, good morning. Um, Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was monkeying around with Facebook's new live producer, which doesn't work at all. So if anybody out there works at Facebook, maybe you might want to fix that. Morning grounding and connection. So, hello, Becca, good morning. So, what's going on this morning besides frustration with Facebook? I think a couple things. One, I got to lead a breathwork circle and healing group last night. And what I love about these groups is that they are not just about the breathwork. They're 2 hours long, and we spend like the first hour and 20 minutes in community sharing stories. And the stories that we were sharing last night were about how moments that we've connected with a larger vision or deeper purpose in our lives. And from the story of those moments, we were able to find like a toolbox or a vocabulary that can allow us to connect with that sense of purpose, even and especially in times like these where things are so uncertain and turbulent. And then we took that energy into the breath work, and it was incredibly beautiful. I don't think anybody on that call knew each other, and by the end of it, we were really able to create a sense of deep community. I'm so grateful for that. I find those moments so nourishing. The other thing that I'm aware of, hey Charlie, is that it's the first night of Passover tonight, and nominally I'm Jewish. I don't really practice, but it feels like Passover, the story of Passover, is particularly resonant right now. Because if you know anything about it, like if you've seen the Ten Commandments, where Charlton Heston, famed NRA advocate, slams his staff down and says, "Let my people go." It's the story of Exodus, when the Jews liberated themselves from slavery and went out wandering in the desert. And it seems like that story is actually three stories. And the first story is a story of leaving something behind, casting off to new shores without knowing what's ahead of you. The second story is the story of being lost in the desert, of being lost in the unknown and in the wild, totally disoriented, running out of food, running out of water, and relying on miracles and faith and each other to get you through. And the third story is a story of redemption, a story of getting to the promised land, whatever that vision is of the promised land. And it feels like in this moment, we are very much in the desert. There's not a lot of certainty. There's a lot of people pretending that there's certainty. Well, things will definitely open in June. We don't know that. And we don't know what open looks like, right? So in these times, I actually reached out to a rabbi, of all things, and asked for a Haggadah, I don't know how to pronounce it, which is a prayer book for Passover. And I want to read this because I think it's so resonant with where we are now. And it's about eating matzah, which is the unleavened bread. It's disgusting. It's like eating cardboard. But the reason that we do that is that it's about forgetting. And I'm reading from this document he sent me. Bread makes you forget the wheat it once was and the earth from which it emerged. Having undergone numerous phases of evolution from wheat to grain to dough to bread, the final product looks nothing like its root self, its original form and substance, and is morphed into a substance so far removed from its essence that its essence is all but forgotten, and so is its magic. Likewise, with many forms of leavened or fermented products, but we pick on bread and the like since it's considered or was considered the staff of life, and Passover is about restoring awareness of our root self, our essential self, the realization of which finally moved our ancestors to cry out in pain over their enslavement, etc., and so on. So I think that there's an invitation in these times, whether we celebrate Passover or not, to get back to what's essential and to find the magic in that root origin of who we are and of our purpose and of our unique way of being in the world and of our communities, because we are having a lot of the external stimuli stripped away in this time, which is incredibly uncomfortable and can be very, very painful. And so's eating matzah, right? It's disgusting. So I wonder if there's a way to leverage the intensity of these times to help guide us into a reconnection with that magic that lies at our core. I don't know why I'm using this microphone because I'm not on my computer today. So with that, let's turn to our friend Hafez, the Sufi poet, for a poem for April 8th and see what he might add to this conversation this morning. Today's poem is called Radiant in its Sheath. Outside everyone's house is a great force that will someday attack. Many have been carried off, held for some kind of ransom, mortally wounded, or made crazed. Who would raise a child and not prepare him for such an imminent battle? Who would ever write a book and not in some way make you aware of a strong opponent you will meet? A sword is most effective if it is never raised, but can turn radiant in its sheath and reflect a light onto your face that can still the anger in others. I want to read that last sentence again because I really love it. A sword is most effective if it is never raised and can turn radiant in its sheath and reflect a light onto your face that can still the anger in others. As I read that, I'm reminded of a metaphor that a friend of mine used once, which was there are two kinds of ways of dealing with disaster or a fire. One is to be a fire preventer, and the other is to be a firefighter. And unfortunately, in our culture, we celebrate the firefighters, the people who go into battle against the fire. And the fire preventers don't get much love. And I'm thinking of the nurses and the doctors and the essential workers who are out there on the front lines of a war that they never wanted to fight. And it's beautiful that we're celebrating them. The people in New York are giving them a cheer every night. And also, we shouldn't be having to do that. That if there had been more prevention, then those heroics would not be necessary. And I'm also in the poem hearing that when the sword is in its sheath, the light of it reflects on our face and soothes the anger of others, and the light of it may be related to the light of that root magic that the rabbi talked about for Passover. So I don't know, but it feels like we should do something with that in the meditation. So let's see what happens. There's a lot of stuff swimming around right now. So just sit in a way that feels comfortable to you. And you can already feel your weight settling onto your seat. You can lie down or even stand. And we'll bring some gentle awareness to the breath. Just being very aware as you inhale that this is you inhaling. And very aware as you exhale that this is you exhaling in this moment. And we can start to gently elongate the inhales and the exhales. Just allowing yourself to really enjoy and luxuriate in the sense of expansion on the inhale. And the sense of release on the exhale. Good. And just take a nice deep breath in. Release it with a sigh. And with that, we'll allow ourselves to come a little bit more into our bodies. Just allowing your weight to settle and inviting gravity to work a little bit more effectively on you. almost like a gravity blanket gently weighing you down towards the earth. And you can feel your jaw relax, your shoulders pull down. If you're holding tension in your forehead, maybe that drops towards the earth, recognizing that the more weight we release to the earth, the more she's able to send support up to us. And just take a nice deep breath in. And release. And we'll do a light scan of the body, just starting above the crown of the head and making your way down through the forehead. And the eyeballs, and the cheeks, and the jaw, and the throat, the upper back, the chest. Moving down to your solar plexus and your hips. Down your legs, all the way to the bottom of your feet, just getting a compassionate scan of where you're at this morning physically, where you are feeling really open and awake and alive, and places where you may be feeling a little bit tighter or constricted. And just take a nice deep breath in. And release. And now we can imagine, if you want to, that you are in a beautiful place in nature. Just allowing your imagination and perception to create this beautiful spot. Feeling the texture of the earth or grass or sand beneath you. Noticing if there's trees around you. And even looking up to see what color the sky is. Noticing any clouds or birds. What are the plants that you're aware of around you? Noticing the quality of the air. The texture of the light. And just take a nice deep breath into this space. And release. And as we allow ourselves to sink a little bit further into this space, you can notice that about 100 yards away, there is a beautiful flower growing, and notice how long the stem is. And as we notice this, we're aware that this place almost pulses with a kind of power and energy that feels so safe and so supported. And so we can approach that flower, and it hasn't blossomed yet. It's just starting to. And as you look, getting closer, maybe putting your eye right up to the blossom, you can see in the center of that flower a glowing light. And as if invited by this space, you can cup your hands around the flower. And as you do, you become aware that the petals are stories that you carry about yourself, beliefs that you carry. And some of these beliefs are beautiful, about how amazing you are. And some of them might feel a little bit less beautiful. I am not enough. Who am I to be happy when others are suffering? And as you gently cup this flower, these petals just start to fall away. The stories that we've allowed to define us just start to fall away, drifting very gently towards the ground. And some of these stories were gifted to us by our culture, and some came in through our parents or grandparents or great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. And for now, we don't have to know about any of that. We're just allowing the stories to fall away. Just for now. And finally, you find your hands cupped around this beautiful light at the center of the flower. And you come to realize that this is the light of your essential self. The light that burns at the root of your being. And you can really spend a moment with it. Allow yourself to be warmed by its glow. And you can imagine as you breathe, entering into a really beautiful exchange with this light at the center of this flower that is you. As you breathe in, allowing yourself to be nourished by its energy. And as you exhale, sharing all of yourself with this light at the core of your being. There's nothing that needs to be hidden in this moment. And slowly, when it feels like you have a relationship established with this light that sits at the root of your soul, you can move your hands away from the flower, and as you do, the petals start to reassemble. And maybe not all of them, maybe some of them stay down on the earth in this place. And we all need stories, so some of these petals come and create this beautiful flower that now, instead of being closed, is blooming and blossoming in an impossibly beautiful array of light and color, fed by that light at the core of your being. And just take a nice deep breath into that. And allow yourself to experience this flower in whatever way is right for you. And we can back away from the flower, becoming aware again that we're in this incredibly beautiful space in nature. And sending a lot of gratitude to this space and to that light at the center of the flower. Knowing we can return here anytime we want to. And just gently return your attention to your breath. Being very aware as you inhale that this is you inhaling. And very aware as you exhale that this is you exhaling. And you can just take a nice deep breath in and release it. And just start to come back to your body, maybe wiggling your fingers and your toes. Yeah, welcome back. That was fun. I was so curious what your experience of that was. Mine was very powerful. What a beautiful flower. So we'll close out, as always, with a draw from the Wild Unknown Archetype deck by Kim Krantz. And the question that I will be holding today is, how can I connect more deeply with my essential self and the light at my core, so that it can be of benefit and service to others, and also nourish myself, because that's important. And the card that comes up, again, I'm going to challenge the deck to give us a card that we haven't worked with yet. Yeah, here's a new one, I think. So we'll work with the cave today. And archetypes, right? This is not predictive. These are just, the way I like to see it, is ways of accessing other ways of knowing, ways of accessing wisdom that's located in the collective unconscious and in the individual consciousness as well. So the cave, XXX22. That's 32, for those of you who are playing along at home. Here it is. The cave is the dark, the portal, the interior. Those who are fortunate enough to find and enter the cave are forever changed. It is a place of potent power, acting both as portal to another realm and a space for sacred ritual and initiation. The cave is a place to return for meaningful retreat, where one can see the true self in the darkness. In esoteric teachings, the cave is known to reside in the center of the heart. Within its walls and whispers of compassion and self-understanding can be heard, yet because of its mystery and power, many of us fear the cave and never try to find it. We busy ourselves in the bright lights of the city while the cavernous and dimly lit chamber calls out to us in the night. Where is your cave? You already know. Return to it and tend the fire. When light, the sacred center within. When dark, withdrawal, isolation, and hiding. Slowly and steadily, crystals of enormous magnitude grow within the dark confines of caves. Let the cave teach you patience. I continue to be impressed by how beautifully this deck captures whatever we happen to be talking about today. And right, the question coming into this poll was, how can I stay connected with my core self so that I can be nourished and nourish others? And the answer from this perspective, from the perspective of the cave, I know, Becca, it's crazy. From the perspective of the cave is meaningful retreat. To not be afraid to go into those uncertain dark places. To not be afraid to wander in the desert for a little while. And trusting that the light will reveal itself. And that when it does, it's something that can be tended and nourished. So that's what I'm taking from this. I'll post this in the comments. As always, these will live on Facebook. I also post them on my website, storyandspirit.org/meditations. And we're here every morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Feel free to drop in anytime, before or after. And as always, I'm deeply grateful to spend these moments with you. And hope you are so well. Hope your loved ones are well. And always feel free to reach out for support if that feels like something that's useful. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.